Was Fast and Furious ever about racing? No, it was about family and crime. In fact, if you go back and watch the first Fast and the Furious movie, you'll realize that what they were stealing was TVs with built-in VCRs. That'll make you feel old. TVs with built-in VCRs, video cassette recorders. Go back right now and have a look at what they were stealing in the first Fast and Furious film. What is a VCR? You know those massive blocky TVs that could play video cassettes with a built-in video cassette slot? That's what they were stealing. Video cassettes. Mark says we know what they are. Some people in this chat don't. What's a Laserdisc? Laserdisc was the thing that lost the fight to Blu-ray. The minimum age on this stream is like 30. You remember mini discs, but do you remember hit clips? If I am correct, hit clips were those little plastic clips that you could get with a single song on them that you would plug in to some kind of cassette player or laser player or MP3 player or something that would play exactly one song. And you had bands like the Backstreet Boys and Blue and whoever sang the Venga Bus song. You know, all of those. Why am I dredging up these memories? Because it's much nicer to sit here, drink mead, and play a game from 20 years ago while reminiscing about the late 90s to mid-2000s than actually exist in whatever reality we currently have going. Sometimes you sit down and think, you know what? Maybe Cypher from The Matrix had a point. I get that Neo was the hero. I get that Morpheus made the right choices. I get that Trinity was doing the right thing. And I get that, I get that they were fighting for freedom. But sometimes you do look at Cypher and you think, I get it. I totally get it. Maybe his brain was telling him that the steak was juicy and delicious. And maybe he didn't want to remember nothing. Maybe ignorance is bliss. I just think I'm burnt out of a 24-hour news cycle, so I like to think about things when I didn't understand them. And people always go, oh, it was better in the 90s. No, it wasn't. It was just as bad. I was just a kid. Didn't know any better or better worse about that. It's not that it was or wasn't better. It was different. Stop judging. He still downloaded his music from LimeWire. Well, how else am I meant to give my PC one of those cute purple monkeys? Yeah, the best childhood memory is not paying bills. Straight up. There was a story on Reddit that I was reading recently because I hate myself and use Reddit. And one of them was a student talking to a teacher. And the student was being a bit sassy and saying, I earn more money than you, to the teacher. And the teacher was like, given the teacher's wages, that might even be true. What do you do? The student said, I'm an assistant manager at a restaurant somewhere. And the teacher went, oh, good. And how are you finding paying bills? And they went, I don't pay bills. And I think that very much put into perspective with a lot of people on the thread that actually life is just a lot nicer when you don't have as many responsibilities. We can all just admit that. We can all totally admit that it is nicer when you don't have to worry about all the bad stuff that was going on. Opening Reddit was definitely my first mistake. Oh yeah, without a doubt. That was the first thing I shouldn't have done, Hang on, I shouldn't be punching this guy. I should be actually. Thank you. I'm close to another level, to be fair. I'm close to level 17. It's important to have more free decisions and responsibilities. This is one of the reasons why I think that millennials, of which I am one, regress so much into this imagined childhood idea. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there seems to be a real thing within millennial culture of glamorizing the lack of responsibilities. When we say stuff like, oh, I can't even adult today, it's a way of taking the childlike cadence of that speech. When people are like, oh my God, I can't adult today, it's a way of infantilizing the way of speaking about it. But why is that so popular? Why do millennials do this thing where they infantilize the acceptance of adult responsibilities? And I think it's because that previously, going from late teenagehood into adulthood, and this was, the 60s, 70s, and 80s kind of vibe, maybe even becoming an adult in the 90s, you were inheriting a world that you could still see some kind of progression path within. And I think that's what's annoyed so many millennials. The idea that so many millennials, and now you've got Gen Z and that lot, are fully aware that the chance of owning a house, much lower. The chance of supporting a family on a single income, much lower. The chance of being promoted and earning anything remotely above minimum wage, much lower. I think the reason that adulthood has been rejected by so many people who belong to the millennial kind of subset is the fact that it's one of the first generations to look at the adult world that they've inherited and realize that the greatest advancement that they're probably going to be able to make through it is just kind of surviving. And so regressing back into the childlike status of speaking in that way, making a joke of it, it's a response to the reality of a world that they aren't going to be able to bend to their will in the way that someone that was growing up in the 60s and 70s did. I don't necessarily think it's purely cynical. I think there's also there's a level of annoyance to it. It's not someone just looking at it and being cynical. It's people want to do that. That old joke of, oh, nobody wants to work anymore. Wrong. Lots of people want to work. What they don't want to be is exploited anymore. The vast amount of people are more than happy to work. What people don't want to do is work for an unfair amount of pay that, when taken home and added up, actually doesn't get them anything more than being able to do it again the next day. People want work to be able to progress them out of a situation that they are in. They don't want work to just be a continuation of the situation that they're in. Because in that case, why would you work? If you knew that you could put so much effort into something and your reward would be the ability to do it tomorrow, that does not motivate someone to do anything. All the old people go, oh, young people don't want to work anymore. You know, when you were my age, I turned up and I worked for £2 an hour. Yeah, but based on inflation, that's now like 25 quid an hour. If someone's saying, hey, you know, this job pays £25 an hour, you would get loads of people applying for it. Loads of very highly qualified people who would be more than happy to do it. I dislike it when people get paid minimum wage and then their work tells them they're getting a pay rise in order to match whatever minimum wage is going up to. That's not a pay rise. You're just doing the legal minimum that's required of you. Oh, we're going to give you a pay rise. What? To match to the legal minimum? That's not a pay rise. If you could pay me less, you would. That's what I say to people. If they could pay you less, they would. I try and explain this to people. I really hate job adverts that advertise the legal minimum requirements as some kind of benefits. Like, oh, you get this many holidays per year, and you get this many benefits, and you get to do this, and we've got to follow all these laws. I'm like, you're just listing stuff that everyone's entitled to. Oh yeah, absolutely. The vast majority of companies would pay you less if they could. They're annoyed they have to pay you at all. Grandbauer, I got to catch a live stream, wanted to say thank you for the worst MMO ever series. You are very welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Welcome to the stream. Greetings from Germany. Hopefully you guys are doing okay over there. First time I ever catch a live and you're playing WoW, a glitch in the Matrix. I just like... The mead is getting to him. It is. I've drank a lot. But I'm a very calm, chilled out, relaxed drunk. I have learned that when I am tipsy, the main thing that changes is I miss more Magic the Gathering triggers whenever playing a complicated deck. Mead is fermented honey. Are you? That's new to me. What am I like when I'm tipsy then? Rage? Am I an angry drunk? I'm sure I get funnier. Pretty sure I get funnier. Like I think I do. But I laugh at my jokes all the time. And you find you're loud and you find lots of things very funny. Yeah, that's probably true. That is probably true. Good. Oh, hi Josh, I love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of me. Are we huggers is the last thing Josh said to me in person. You've got to ask, consent is sexy. I'm not just going to assume somebody wants a hug. I'm not the where's my hug at guy. It's always, is it okay if, are you comfortable with that? What's the alcohol content % of mead? High. At least +3. It can hit demons. I'm curious, what are your critiques so far? I don't think... here we are. I know that Chris Metzen has recently said that he regrets calling it World of Warcraft. And I think my main critique so far is that that's a really stupid thing to say. Right, let's go with training. Don't bother showing the unavailable stuff. I think Chris was being sarcastic. I think Chris was being an idiot because he doesn't understand that sarcasm doesn't translate well over the internet. What happened, guys? I'm not up to date on any of the drama. It's internet drama. Don't worry about trying to keep up to date with it. It doesn't make any sense to even try. Getting off social media drama is one of the best things you can do for your mental health. And very quickly you will realize that absolutely none of it matters. Do you guys remember when you were in either primary school or high school and some kind of drama happened that for you was just the biggest, most important drama of all time? It was just absolutely mental. It was so important. Do you guys remember that? And you look back at now and you realize that actually completely irrelevant to basically everyone. You know, when you were in primary school and someone said this and someone said that, and maybe there was a band that were breaking up and no one understood quite how badly this was actually going to affect everyone's lives. Like it was the worst possible news because in your life, maybe that was the most important thing that was going on. Or have you ever tried to listen to someone tell you about drama that you aren't involved in, that you just don't care about? Have you ever had someone explain, oh my God, I can't believe then they did this, then this happened, then this happened, and you just sat there thinking, I don't know these people. I actively could not care less. That's how I feel about most online drama. Looting99 says, my wife. I agree, your wife, but I just don't care about any of the online drama at all. I'm so over it. But you know what? Because it's the 24-hour news cycle. It's the online 24-hour news cycle of you must care about this issue right now. And then as soon as that blows under the rug and the mob mentality moves on, then care about this issue. Yeah, please care about this issue right now so we can spam drama, video, and ads at you and then move on and don't care about anything else. Guys, I'm still very focused that we can take down Coney. I know that we gave up in 2012, but I really think that maybe we can keep going on with that. One of the reasons that I don't like online drama so much is the fact that it is time-gated, and it's time-gated not on achieving it, it's time-gated on people's attention span, which is stupid. They're like, hey, this is a big issue, you should care about this. Okay, this is a big issue, it's going to take years to fix. No, we're going to focus on this intensely for the next 6 months, then we're going to move on to something else. Yeah, but the issue wasn't fixed. It was never about fixing the issue. It was about giving you something to intensely focus on for 6 months before moving on to the next thing. That's what it was about. And then you're the weird one if you continue to focus on older stuff. The next big drama is just about what to direct your attention to for the next 6 months. Sometimes 4 months. Sometimes even with YouTube drama, 1 month. That's all it is. And you're the weird one if you continue to focus on this when it's past the public zeitgeist. Facebook is just an MMORPG, but the combat is far more brutal. I'm still annoyed over the local roads like you wouldn't believe. Josh, you seem really relaxed today. This is a new type of tea. This is how I normally am when I don't have to worry about businessy stuff or dealing with people. This is the normal. And it's only 10:30. To be fair, I didn't realize I've been streaming for nearly 5 hours. Can you be upset and care about something right now? Content creators are gatekeeping, telling new people not to do so, but it's them revealing the hidden costs of content creation that you aren't told about. I think that you should absolutely try to do whatever you want to do in life, and if content creation is something you're interested in, I would encourage people to do it, but I would encourage people to do it with a realistic expectation of what content creation is. It is 99% video editing. The vast majority of content creation is editing. If you don't like video editing or you're not willing to sit and learn how to video edit, then it's going to be a hard road for you to follow. You wish you had that info when you started painting Warhammer. Yeah, that's when you become a streamer. That's when you say, you know what, this video editing, it's a lot. Yeah, so we keep throwing things at content until you find something that sticks. Could you focus on video editing and get hired by a streamer? Many people do. Many people do that. There is an entire business around working with and working for streamers. Brandon Sanderson gave an excellent speech about AI. And when people can just prompt an image generator to make the image they want or write the story they want. Creating art is the process of finding yourself. That's what it is. You are the art that you make. You become a different person when you draw a picture. You become a better storyteller when you write a story. You become a better painter when you make the worst painting you can possibly make. You are actually building yourself through your artistic experiences. And when you use AI to create some art instead, you are robbing yourself of those experiences. You are shortcutting the journey in order to get the output without understanding that the process of going on the journey is an important aspect of making you who you are. AI is a tool. It is. You can't deny that. AI is absolutely a tool. But if you are using that tool to remove part of the journey from yourself, part of the experience, then are you using it as a tool or are you cheating yourself out of something? Most people will never make it to a level where the end product is professional looking. King Phil, it's not about being professional looking. It's about going on the journey and learning who you are. It's not about selling something for a profit. It's not about becoming a professional in it. It's about understanding that as a human being, taking on a task, completing it, has value. Trying to learn to do something. You know what? I try and explain this to kids all the time, and some adults that don't get it. You know, one of the things that school doesn't teach? How to learn. That sounds weird to say. Schools don't teach people how to learn. They teach people how to memorize. They teach people exactly how to, remember data. That's fine. But how do you learn? Do you just write something down repeatedly until you've memorized it? I mean, that's one way. I'm not saying that's got no value. Of course it's got, but that's one way. Are we teaching people where sources come from? Are we teaching people the value of failure? Are we teaching people to be okay with not being good at something straight away? I've had people say to me, I don't want to draw because I'm not very good at it. Okay. Are you drawing to be good? Is someone else going to see it? Are you drawing for the pure enjoyment of being able to do it? And it's okay if you're not good at it. You don't need to be. That's totally fine. I think that the worst thing that AI does is convince people that if the output of something that they are trying to do isn't good straight away, then the journey going on the journey to make the output better has no value. Failure is not to be punished. Failure in the process of learning is to be celebrated. I love that. FAIL, first attempt in learning. I've tried to drill this into almost every student I've ever had. It's okay to try something and fail. Why did you fail? What did you learn from it? Where do we go with this? How do we get better? What lessons do we take from this? You wrote a story and your characters seem bored. Okay, cool. How do we make them not seem bored? How do we change? What do we add in? Can we change around the pacing, the positions, the paragraphs, the writing style? Can we go on this journey? Can you learn to become someone different? Because both those are great choices. AI robs you of that. That's what annoys me about it. There are so many videos online about how hobbies have become performative. It's not enough to do something for the fun of it. You must be seen to be doing it. It's not enough to color. You must share the page of the coloring book. Because if you don't, what's the point? I should have been a teacher. I was a teacher for about 10 years. I had many clashes with academia. I disagree with many of the things they were trying to teach people. If it doesn't get likes, does it even exist? If you didn't post that you were at the gym, did you even go? I very much clashed with all of the academic, general, accepted structure. There were problems I found with it. What did I teach? I started off teaching drama, then I did a few lessons in critical thinking in general, and then I went back to drama because I preferred drama. And because the educational authority tended to not see drama as a real subject, they also tend to leave you alone a lot more, which to me is great. People also think your hobbies are invalid if you don't monetize them. It's one of the reasons that I don't monetize my Warhammer hobby. I love building and painting, but I don't want to make it a thing. Ha! So Sailor, that's actually a really interesting thing. People post their meals, but not the shit you take afterwards. Because people want to share the good part of their life, not the bad part. How do you learn how to do things without expecting other people's approval? Sometimes the best way is to set out to learn how not to do something. Do the hobby for the hobby. Learn how to not do something. Learn what doesn't work. And importantly, explain to someone why it doesn't work. One of the best lines in a song as far as teaching goes is in the song Son of Man from Tarzan. In learning you will teach, and in teaching you will learn. That's one of the best things to do. One of the best ways to learn to do something is to try and teach somebody else to do it. Because the most important thing that teaches you is patience. Have you ever had someone, normally like a supervisor at work, try and teach you how to do something, but they don't explain the process, and they don't explain why they're teaching you it this way, and they don't answer your questions, they just tell you to do it that way. And then you ask them, hey, why are we doing it this way? And something weird happens. They get annoyed at you. They get annoyed at you for asking questions. Do you want to know why they get annoyed at you? It's because they don't actually know the answer. And by asking them the question, you are questioning their authority and asking them to explain something to you that, if we're being honest, they can't actually explain. And it takes a huge amount of ego death to be able to say to someone, I don't know. I don't know is a powerful thing to say. One of the most important things you can ever say if a kid asks you, hey, how does this work? And you don't know is, let's find out together. We teach all of this. We should be teaching all of this in earlier years. We should be teaching kids that teachers themselves are fallible and it's okay to want to learn something. But when I was a kid, and this was what my gran did, my gran taught this to me because my gran was a professional childminder. If I said to her, hey, what's this about? And she didn't know, she would say, I don't know. Let's find out together. And we would either go to the library together, or we would try and find a book on it or something, or we would find someone who knew something about it. And through going on that journey with her, I learned how to learn. What is a childminder? So in the UK, if you have a kid and you still need to go to work, and you cannot either afford to put them into daycare, or the child has been expelled from school for any reason, then they would normally be put, at least for the day, into the care of a childminder. So my gran would look after children that came from families that were not able to, for whatever reason, put them into a daycare or send them to a school or have anyone at home to look after them. There was no level of mental disability there. Normally it was either a financial, economical problem, or it was a behavioral problem. So I spent, when I was a kid, a huge amount of time around my gran while she was looking after very difficult kids. And I saw how she interacted with all of them. And the craziest thing to me, looking back, was that she just treated them like people. That was it. If they had a question, she would answer it. If she didn't know, she would find out. And we would go on that journey together. And that taught me a hell of a lot about how you interact and how you teach. Because you see adults doing the same thing. You see an adult getting annoyed when they don't know the answer. You see an adult getting irritated when someone questions their authority. You see an adult getting irritated when someone corrects them. And then you have that beautiful line that comes out that just screams insecurity, which is, you always have to be right, don't you? You ever had someone say that to you? You know what they're actually saying? I'm annoyed that you've corrected me. You've undermined my authority. Because authority comes not from finding the truth or the correct answer. Authority comes from blind obedience. Sucks, doesn't it? Or when someone goes, oh, I don't know about that. That's fine. You don't know about that. Sometimes neither do I. People come to me and they're like, hey, what do you think about this? I don't know. I'm not educated enough in that to know. That made your fight or flight trigger happen. Yeah, it is. It happens all the time. There's a huge amount of power and liberation in saying, I don't know. We'll find out. Let's work it out together. So I've had job interviews. I've had job interviews for teaching jobs where I've been observed in a classroom and people have said to me, Josh, you don't have any traditional teacher training. Where have you learned this? And I said, my gran, watching her and how she interacted with people, how she taught people, how she taught both kids and adults, and then just copied and emulated that. So yeah, crazy, crazy thing. Yeah, grandma, way better than college, without a doubt. Put a Teaching for Dummies book on the back pocket. Teaching for Dummies book is mostly about explaining to people why we're doing something. I hate the question in school because, and again, many opinions on this. Kids are like, I'll never need to learn this. I'll never need to know this. Why are we learning algebra? I don't need to know this. Why am I replacing numbers with letters? It's just solving a puzzle. Okay, well, when am I ever going to need this? You know what the best answer to that is? It's to have an example of when they might need it. If a kid says, when am I ever going to need this? It actually is useful to be able to say, you'll need it here. Or it's useful to be able to say, you know what? You're right. You probably never will need this. However, what you're going to do in a couple of years is effectively be entered into a competition against thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of other people. And what that competition is testing is not necessarily your ability to have specific skills for specific situations. It's your ability to have a wide range of problem-solving skills within this general context of education. So when you are going to need this specifically is when you go up against the educational, effectively, battle against other kids for the result. Because what we're then going to do is give everyone rewards based on how well they took on this specific puzzle and problem. What you're proving for the next 7 to 8 years is that you can focus, memorize, and then regurgitate. And that sucks. I completely agree that sucks. But that's the situation and the system that you are in, and that's why we need to try and get that to you. I don't agree with it, but that's the situation that you are going to go through. And that's what we're trying to give you the skills to survive. Because sometimes when someone has a university degree or a college degree or even a high school diploma, what they are saying is, I have been able to focus for this amount of time. That's what it is. I don't like it, but I'm going to try and give you the skills to beat it. People say, oh, you're not always going to have a calculator in your pocket, are you? Well, you might do. You may very well do. But you still need to know what those sums mean. Sometimes the test is the proof that you paid attention. That's it. And does that suck? Yes. Yes, it does. I don't like it. I don't think it holds anywhere near as much value as it could do, but that is the reason it's there. People often don't care what your degree is in. They care that you were able to stick it out. If anyone's been to college in America or university in the UK, and you've lived away from home, sometimes for many people, it's their first experience of living away from home. And what's more valuable is those 3 years of pseudo-independence where you actually realize just how much you didn't know about it. Some professions do require a degree. Absolutely. They absolutely do. The formal qualifications, it's not the best. I don't like the system. I don't think it's a well thought out system. I don't think it's a good system, but it is the system that we currently live and work within. And so sometimes rebelling, it's much easier to rebel against the system when you have emotional, mental, physical, and financial stability. And it's very easy to get those things if you already have all of the things the system can give you. So if you want to rebel against the system, that's fine. I agree with that. Do that from a position of power. Don't do that from a position of weakness, because what you will then do is, even if you succeed, you'll place yourself into a position where you can't go and get anything from that. It sucks. I want people to succeed. I want the system to change. But what I don't want is people who are going to effectively become martyrs for their own cause and hurt themselves to prove a point which doesn't change anything. I know far too many people who have spent hours, months, years, and too much money trying to rage against a system that they dislike without understanding that even if they succeed to the absolute best of their ability, the system will not change. Not through what they're trying to do. That's what Rage Against the Machine we're focusing on. It is entirely possible to push back against systems, yes, but don't do it at the detriment of not being able to change anything and still sacrificing yourself. If I was going to start a band, I would definitely call it Rage Against a System You Don't Like, but, you know, take care of yourself as well. We have lots of smart people, but they fail to convert code to money. They're really good at filling out a CV. Oh god, yeah, people are really good at interviews. Societal change is important. I agree. Societal change is very important. But if you asked someone, hey, do you want society to change, but no one will know that you are the one who was responsible for changing it? Or do you want society to stay the same and yet everyone will think that you were actually one of the great heroes fighting back against it even though you didn't achieve your goal? I think there's actually a shocking amount of people who would choose, I want the fame. Because the performance, the validation matters to a lot of people. You would rather societal change. Good. I would hope you would. But there's a lot of people out there who want the performative nature of it. And the people that want the performative nature normally become politicians. We all know politicians who would do absolutely nothing if people thought they were doing something. Whelmed is a real word. It is. Overwhelmed is when too much is happening. And underwhelmed is when not enough is happening. Whelmed, that's the happy middle ground. That's the happy medium. Say, no, the DVD logo is gone. Don't be unhappy, because if you do that, you'll make me think that you're not here for me, you're just here for the DVD logo. And the union has already mandated when you can and cannot have that. It's a safety sock, yeah. We all wanted the corner to happen. Obviously, we all want the corner of the DVD logo to happen. It is the moment. It is the thing. It's the reason it happens. I drive a truck for a living. Literally on the road 14 hours every day. You playing this is what's keeping me happy. I'm glad that you enjoy it. See, we can't put the DVD logo on when we're entertaining a truck driver, the lifeblood of the nation. We put the DVD logo on there, he's going to have to stare at the screen. We're going to kill someone. That's not the right way to do it. Think on. Think about something beyond yourself, guys. He might crash. We can't put the DVD... The only way that we can do this is, if you are driving a truck right now, I will put the DVD logo on, and I will just inform you about whether it does or doesn't go in the corner. Okay? This is for the truckers out there and the people that aren't looking. Here we go. Get ready. No. 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 No, no. No. No, no. 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 No, no. No. No, no. 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 That's the YouTube clip right there. There you go, Visa. Visa eating good since I've started playing Warcraft. What have we come to? This is Twitch. Imagine someone asks you, so what's Twitch like? And this is the first stream they see. Oh, I see. It's psychotic, sarcastic Englishmen sitting watching the DVD logo. Would I have any advice for someone who struggles with addiction? 5 months, yet I crave, I yearn, makes me feel like I didn't quit. Failure. Bravery is not the absence of fear. You can only be brave if you are afraid of something and keep doing it anyway. If you are yearning and you are still resisting, that's not a failure. That's not the fact that you didn't quit. If anything, that's quite the opposite. That's proof that you did, and there is an addiction trying as hard to pull you back, and you're actively fighting against it. That's an excellent way to look at it. But there's been a classic medieval saying for a long time that bravery is not the absence of fear. Is that from Star Trek? Probably. Probably could be. If you have quit something and you are yearning to go back to it, the reason you are yearning is because your brain chemical makeup wants it again. The way that thing, whatever it is that you've quit, made you feel and programmed you to be, is yearning for it to return, and you are actively resisting it, which is a really difficult thing to do. So if you're able to resist it, good. Keep resisting. Keep fighting back, keep pushing, and eventually you will, through a mix of tenacity, brute force, and outside help if you need it, rewire and rewrite those chemical synapses in your brain to assist you with that. You will always have a part of you that thinks, I should go back, but the part of you saying no is stronger. You're not a failure for actively succeeding at doing the thing you're trying to do. You're just beating it. And it's very unpleasant. And you are beating it. Anything can be addictive. People can find solace in anything. People can find comfort in it, familiarity, altered chemical state. Maybe it's a social thing. People are like, oh, I'm only a social drinker. Okay, but you go out socializing every night. Maybe there's more to it. I'm only a social smoker. Okay, but you're socializing all the time. And then it becomes well, I'll just do it when no one's around because I like it. It's a battle. You are battling against it. And it's okay to have those thoughts in your brain. If you don't have those thoughts, I would, in some ways, be worried. The fact that you're thinking about it, the fact that it's still on your mind, means that you are still processing through it. And that's totally okay. I'll give you an example. An example that I come back to every now and again, which is very important to me. Many years ago, I think this is a true example, I can't remember the exact countries. Many years ago, a country had a defense minister responsible for predicting and effectively planning against potential attacks on the country. And something internal happened that was horrible. I can't remember the exact specifics. But the focus of it was, when it happened, the defense minister effectively said, I couldn't even imagine this happening. And I kind of thought, it's your job to imagine this happening. You need to think about these things. Thinking about them doesn't mean that you're going to actively do them. Thinking about them means that you are at least aware of where this process could go to. And that's kind of what we need you to be able to do. It is important, it is vital to be able to think about things that you don't want to happen in order to be able to plan about how you fight back against them. So if you are still thinking about negative things, if they are still on your mind, that's okay. You have an active mind. You have an engaged mind within these systems. And then you can say, okay, I'm thinking about this, I'm feeling this, I understand this, this is something that I am at least aware of. Now, how do I use those thoughts in a productive way? I mean, this is all just theory. In theory, practice is the same as theory. In practice, it's not. Very important to remember that as often as you possibly can. Right, I now need to kill... I'm still looking for gore tusks. And then the boars down here as well. You've got to ride it out. You've got to push through it, and you are stronger than it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have decided to do it in the first place. One of the most important things that I try to tell people all the time is, whenever you are faced with a challenge, we do not rise to meet our expectations. We fall to meet our training. People say to me, oh, if this bad thing happened, I would have done this. No. No, that's what you expect yourself to do. What you would actually do, or what most people would actually do in these situations, is whatever they have been trained to do in those situations. We do not rise to our expectations, we fall to our training. So if you are struggling with something, do not simply expect yourself to be able to beat it. Go through the process of training how you beat it. That's why the professionals, whenever they get into these situations, say, well, I just did what my training said. Yeah, that's why we train people. That's why having any level of training or support or process or system in place to deal with anything is going to make you infinitely more useful than someone who doesn't have that. It's true of systems. We fall to the level of our systems. We do not rise to our expectations. We fall to our systems. Training should be more difficult than the thing you do. So when you go and do the thing, part of you's like, that's actually quite easy. Am I spiritual at all? That's a good question. I like to think so. But I also understand that I really don't know enough about anything specifically. I like to think that there is something after this life, regardless of what it is. I don't know what it is, but I like to think there's something after this life. There are so many religions, gods, ideas, processes of worship that may not even be worshipping a deity, but nature itself, like the idea of Shintoism. I don't know or will never tell someone what is or isn't right. If following a certain path makes you happy, then go for it. If it helps you become a better person, if it guides you, if it gives you a sense of purpose, go for it. If you are going to use it to belittle people, to hurt people, to shoot people down, if you're going to use it to justify an atrocity you're trying to commit, no, don't go for it. I think that people hate the idea of religion, people love the idea of religion. I ultimately think that, and again, try not to get anyone angry here, I think there's a lot of people in life who are embarrassed or scared or worried about being seen as weird, and yet they want to do good things. And so what they often look for is a reason or a justification for why they do these things. Because then they almost push a level of personal responsibility off themselves in a good way and understand that they are doing the good thing because of something else. They'll say, I'm going to go and help people because it's part of this. I'm going to go and support people because it's part of this. Because just doing it for yourself, people will be like, that's weird, why are you doing that? But then you say, oh, it's my religion, and they're like, oh yeah, of course, that makes sense. So people can use religion as an excuse to do good things. Unfortunately, as we all know, they can also use it as an excuse to do bad things. I think that people that were going to do bad things were going to do them regardless. Religion is just a great excuse for them. Yeah, it can give you a great framework if you need that. It can give you a horrible justification if you need that. I think that if it's something that gives you a level of framework and support in your life, go for it. Sounds like a good thing and you're using it as a good thing. I read a book many years ago called Join Me by an author called Danny Wallace. He's a comedian now. Join Me is the story of Danny Wallace putting an advert in the newspaper simply declaring, join me. And then people doing just that. And people didn't know what they were joining. They just joined. And eventually Danny had a cult on his hands. It's a great book. I would recommend you read it. Danny ended up morphing this cult into a group that he called the Karma Army. And he said, on Sunday, go out and do something nice. That's it. Just go and do something nice for somebody else. And lots of people did from that. Now, the interesting thing is these people could have done that anyway. But by giving them that framework, that justification, it took a level of embarrassment or agency away from those people and allowed them to do the thing that they enjoyed doing by giving an excuse and a justification based on something else. That, I think, is what a lot of systems and people do. It sounds pretty anecdotal. Yeah, absolutely, everything is anecdotal. But what I have seen is that a lot of people want to be able to do good stuff and use a connection to a framework to be able to do it. Do I believe in any specific religion? No. Have I met excellent religious people? Yes. Have I met awful religious people? Yes. Have I met both excellent and awful agnostic people, atheist people? Yeah. I think ultimately people are going to be people, and some will believe and some will not believe. Some will use their connection to a belief system to be better. Some will use their connection to a belief to be worse. I like to think whatever happens afterwards, we get to go on and do something else. Because I'm enjoying this, and I would like to do something else. Some people act good because they believe that will give them a reward in the future. I like to think that acting nice and good is its own reward right now, regardless of what does or doesn't come after. Some people have said if you don't believe in some kind of divine, then what's to stop you from doing all of the awful things? And I've had to say to people the same thing that Penn and Teller say to people. If fear of divine retribution is the only reason that you don't do awful things to other people, then maybe you aren't as righteous and as holy as you like to think you are. Maybe you are just terrified of punishment. People said to me, if there isn't a fear of divine retribution, what's to stop you from murdering people as much as you want? And the answer is, I do murder people as much as I want. That amount is 0. But if you were going to murder people and the only thing stopping you from doing that is fear of divine retribution, great. Glad it's working for us. Now let's attack whatever this guy is. This is the content you're here for, what, me talking about my stances and stuff. I wish I could be more dramatic. I wish I could give you something that created an amazing clip and got people angry and got people annoyed. But ultimately, it's just, I don't know. I don't claim to know. I don't think anyone knows. Anyone that tells you they have all the answers is indeed lying. So ultimately, all we can do is party on and be excellent to each other. Ironically, Bill and Ted giving us the best life advice. Anyone that tells you they know exactly how you should live, what you should do, gives you all the answers. No, they don't. They're selling you something. Maybe it's anecdotal, but every time I've spent any time with someone who claims to have all the answers, they're normally insufferable and want something. How do I feel about life coaches? Professional friends. Life coaches are normally people who have a remarkably successful life and therefore will tell you how to live yours. There's good advice, there's bad advice. Life coaches are normally used by people who don't have time to have a friendship group that will support them, or they have a friendship group that will tell them what they want to hear instead of what they need to hear. If you want someone to like you, tell them what they want to hear. If you want to actually help someone, tell them what they need to hear. Big difference. Big, big difference. And I've had friends of mine say, oh, Josh, you should be a life coach. Why? What gives me the qualifications or the right to do that? I can tell people my opinion, my ideas, my thoughts. I will help people, but I won't coach them through their own life, because one of my first things would be make mistakes and work out how you deal with it. Hey Josh, watching you live for the first time after enjoying your saves videos, always wanted to try an MMORPG, but they look scary to start as a newbie. First of all, welcome to the stream, love that I have you with us. MMORPGs are indeed a relatively intimidating genre to get into, because they are social experiences with a game tacked on. It's a social experience that you enjoy through a game. I would say that if you are going to try and get into one, it is very important to remember that it's the community of any individual game that will hold you, not the game itself. People have said that the best MMO they ever found was Rift, or Lord of the Rings Online, or Dungeons and Dragons Online, or Terra, or Dark Age of Camelot, or any of many different MMORPGs. The truth is, the reason they liked those the most was because they're the ones they had the most fun in, because of the people they were playing with. That's what it was. They all suck in their own special way. You went through a gripping relationship with someone in Exodar in about 10 minutes. Good time. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you had a good time, and I'm glad it was fun. How am I finding WoW? Really enjoying it. Really having a good time. Very fun game so far. Very well made. Really finding there's a lot of good design in it. We'll definitely continue playing for probably far too long. And we will be doing dungeons and various things as we go. So yeah, having a really... Better than Guild Wars 2. Different experience than Guild Wars 2. Not necessarily better, not necessarily worse. Different experience. I don't like saying MMOs are better or worse than other games. I just like saying that they provide different experiences. People tend to blame Oblivion and its horse armor for the descent into everything extra DLC. Do I think WoW could be responsible for this? I think the MapleStory had one of the first major RNG patches that you could buy. MapleStory had one of the first low drop chance box items, but before then you had collectible cards in cigarette packets. There is no one thing to blame. No single grain of rice ever blames itself for tipping the scale, but with enough of them together, the scale does inevitably tip. I know that as humans, it's very nice for us to point to one specific reason of this is why that happened. It makes for a good video essay. and it makes for a nice, easy explanation of various things. But sometimes it's very important to remember that it's not just one reason. It's a combination of various things, all acting together, all working together, and the situation they all create together. Eventually, every single strike of the hammer, as you watch someone attempting to split a giant slab of stone in two, weakens the stone. Does the final hit of the hammer, the one which actually splits the stone, does that count as more? Is that more important? Is that hit more valuable? Or does that hit only have value because of all of the hits that came before it? So it's sometimes important to ask yourself the question, when we say this is responsible for this, is it the single cause, or is that simply the manifestation of the culmination of a lot of effects all added together? I know that people like to point at Oblivion's horse armor. I've done it. I've made a video pointing at this horse armor. And I think one of the reasons that people point at the horse armor is that's the first thing that affected a lot of people, where we saw what happens when you bring these things together. But would horse armor have existed without the shareware style gaming model of the mid-90s, where people would share around a floppy disk of a game that you could then pay a bit of money for if you wanted to? Would that have existed without arcades, where you put a small amount of money in to keep playing? Would that have existed without pachinko? Would they have existed without sideshow games and carnivals? It's not necessarily always a case of this was the tipping point. Sometimes it was a case of this is the moment the tip happened based on everything that came before it. And the tip itself was caused by this thing, but that thing would not have caused a tip unless there were other things backing it up as well. Josh, did you have a student that you genuinely didn't like, and if so, why? No, I had parents of students I didn't like. And a lot of the students that had trouble with anything they were doing, the trouble was often caused by the fact that I would spend 1 to 2 hours a week with someone, and the parents would spend all the rest of the time with them. And then the parents would ask me why my input wasn't changing their child. And I had to say to them, because I see your child for, at best, a single % of their life in the week. You see them for every other %. You are doing the vast amount of work to change and to create and to shape your child. If I say, hey, don't do this or do this, and then you contradict me for the rest of the week, of course they're going to go for that because they want to please you. I try and have a lot of sympathy for the kids that I'm working with, because a lot of them were up against some difficult stuff, and it's difficult to dislike someone when you see the reasons for the reasons they are the way they are. As a youth worker, parents are the worst part of the jobs. Yeah, they are. Because parents often wonder, kids are sponges, man. They absorb whatever you show them. And parents always wonder, why is my child acting like I'm acting? I'm like, because they want to emulate you, they want to copy you. This is the biggest frustration of being a dad, seeing myself slowly turn into my own father to fight against it. You've got to fight against it. You've got to not give the answer because I said so. Because you know how annoying that was to you as a child. You've got to find that way of saying, well, we're doing it this way because of this. The reason because I said so is so annoying is basically what you're teaching a child is if someone in a position of authority tells them to do something, they must do it. And that's a dangerous position to be in because it's one of the easiest ways to get taken advantage of in any aspect of life. I know people, I've met people who believe that you must respect them because they are older than you, or you must respect them because they are in a position of power over you. It's the old military thing, salute the rank, not the man. You can respect the idea of experience, you can respect the idea of a position of power having been earned. But if the person that is delivering that position of power, if the person that is within the I'm older than you age bracket is a dick, you don't necessarily need to respect them as an individual. One thing that I really, really, really dislike about respect is that there are some people who believe respecting someone means treating them as an authority and treating them as greater than. And there are some people who believe that respecting someone means treating them as a human, a base minimum. And the worst type of people, and I guarantee you've all met this type of person, is the person who paradoxically conflates the two meanings of respect based on the difference between you and them. And it ends up in a position of, when they say, if you don't respect me, I don't respect you, what they actually mean is, if you don't treat me as a greater authority, I won't treat you as a basic human being. And that sucks. I really dislike that. When someone says, you must respect me, I'll respect you, what they mean is bow down to me, and I will give you the bare minimum. Everyone should dislike that. That sucks. I mean, some people are just dickheads. That's unfortunately the way it goes. You've got to accept some people just dickheads. You can be the tastiest peach on the tree. Some people just don't like peaches. You can be the kindest person in the world. Some people, just dickheads. Josh, have I considered moving out of the UK? Yes. Where would you like to? Japan. Would love to move to Japan. However, I feel that I need to understand the Japanese language a bit more before I do it, because that would be a decent show of respect of wanting to live there. At the minute, pretty much all I can say is "Eigo ga wakarimasu ka?" which is, I'm really sorry, but do you speak English? And I thought, nailed it. That's all I need. And that's probably not even a good pronunciation. But no, Japan was beautiful. When I visited it, it's just such a nice place. And incredible food, people, culture in general. Just beautiful place. Might need a tad bit more than that, yes. Such as konnichiwa for hello and arigatou gozaimasu for thank you very much. But beyond that, nothing else. No, I know nothing else. Traveling days are over, buddy. You're a WoW player now. I miss when I went outside. Thankfully, the Azure Mist Isle is able to replace my outside experience with something much prettier. Outside graphics were cold. This, however, is nice and warm. Actually moving to Japan in April. Oh, nice. Start a zero and work your way from there. I would love to move somewhere close to or round about to Tokyo, just because of the sheer amount of incredible things to do there. You live your entire life in Tokyo and still not see all of Tokyo. It's insane how big it is. I did the Sky Tree when I went, climbed all the way to the top, had a look over, and it is just utterly huge. It is such a massive city. I mean, you could live in one of the suburbs, one of the kind of prefectures, and still not see all of that. What appeals to me about Japan over the UK? It's extremely polite. It's very tidy. It's got a massive anime culture. It has a beautiful amount of well-kept temples and shrines. The fact that you can be walking through central Tokyo and then go and see what effectively is the middle of the countryside and a shrine is gorgeous. The food, the availability of the food in the Konbini culture was lovely. He's a weeb. I am a weeb. Absolutely. I'm going to pretend I'm not. I mean, the last time I was there, I was able to catch up with... I did an episode of the Trash Taste podcast with Sea-Dog and Joey and those guys. And they were lovely. They were lovely. I managed to have a quick catch-up with Chris Broad from abroad in Japan. Went to his studio, had a chat. He was a lovely guy. And then went out for pizza and drinks with Jeff from Mother's Basement. Again, lovely dude. Really nice guy. What would scare me about moving to Japan? Knowing the language is pretty much it. Like, if I am in a place where I feel that I cannot communicate fairly with someone, I feel that I'm being unfair to them, because then they have to adapt to me, and there's a level of selfishness to that. Now, when I went on holiday there, of course, I didn't speak the language super well, and so we were able to, because it was small interactions like shops and whatnot, I was able to navigate it. I would feel bad if I was unable to communicate in a more complex way, because a lot of the conversations I'm going to have are going to be, complex ones. So I'd need to have a translator for that. Apart from that, I would need to... I think it's difficult to move there anyway. You need to prove value, income, business connections, all of that. But I think all those problems, and people have done it before, all those problems, you can overcome those problems somehow. It's possible to do. People do it all the time. I mean, yeah, it took PewDiePie a while to be approved, and he's a pretty big guy. Marry a Japanese woman. Easy peasy. I mean, I've seen enough of the alpha male passport bro culture. I know that all Japanese women are excited for a Western man to come over there and talk to them. Because over there, we are the ones that are incredibly interesting. And if you go over to Japan as a Western man, all the women will fawn over you. Because women are not individual people. They are a massive homunculus creature who exist as a giant hive mind blob. And all of them exist and act in exactly the ways that the alpha male online bro will tell you they act. Remember, alpha male online bros, women aren't individual people. They're just one, they're the Borg. That's what they are. That was a secret, girls. Sorry. Sorry, but it got through to me. I somehow discovered that all women exist purely as a giant homogenized hive mind. And all want and like and hate exactly the same things. Remember that, guys. That's what you need to know. The monotone voice I've got going on, that's my alpha voice. Putting emotion into words is beta. It spikes your cortisol levels. Right now I'm alpha maxing because I'm bro-pilled. Don't put emotion into things. That's a feminine trait. And you'll immediately grow ovaries and then and you will immediately both grow ovaries and get endometriosis within said ovaries. That's what will happen. The pain in my voice is because I know people who actually think this. I've met people who think this, and it's clearly not their turn with the family brain cell. Wow, I think I just arrived and I'm missing context. Can you imagine? Someone arrives right now and they're like, wow, Josh is a douchebag. If you've just joined, what we were being was remarkably sarcastic. That was... Reddit was right. That just makes me sad that Reddit was right about anything. 2 days before I switch to retail, is that when Midnight's coming out or something? I'll be real, I have no interest in retail at all. I mean, don't get me wrong, they come around and pay me to play it. Yeah, absolutely. Big interest in being paid to play things. But retail in general? No. I'm sure I will play retail at some point. I just don't have any interest to play it now. Would I have an interest if it was slowed down? I think I would have an interest if it was a story that I was invested in. And at the minute, I just don't feel it is a story that I'm invested in, or could even get invested in, because it's so beyond the limited scope of what makes WoW fun to me, which is the, local adventurer dealing with local problems. I don't necessarily care about big world-ending godlike problems. I like small adventurer deals with small problem. I feel that D&D is almost more fun when it's personal scale. I don't want to save the world if I don't live in it. And I think, honestly, when they retconned the jailer into the story, that really sucked. If you're going to ask me to save the world, at least make the world a place that I care about living in. Give me a reason to want to save the world. Give me things that I value to save, beyond the concept of being a hero. Give me a location that I'm connected to. I've explained this to writers before. I say writers, people who are trying to write the book. They're like, and you're going to save the world. Okay, what does the character care about in that world? Well, they care about the world. No, they don't. Saving the city doesn't matter. But saving the bakery that you got breakfast at every morning, when you lived in a crappy apartment and you worked a crap job, but you enjoyed that croissant in the morning and you got to know the people that own it and you saw their kids grow up from primary school to high school to college, and you saw their struggles and you saw when the shop next door burnt down and you had to help them rebuild. Saving that matters. The city doesn't. The croissant, that does. People think that the player will charge halfway across the world to save a bunch of people they don't know, because that's what heroes would do. A generic hero with no focus, sure. People might charge halfway across the world to save a city because they think it's the right thing to do, but they'll charge halfway across the galaxy to save someone that means something to them. That's the difference. It can be smaller scale and meaningful. I don't care about world-ending problems if I don't live in the world. I don't care about world-ending problems if I don't feel that the world deserves to continue existing. And this is what I think games don't want to do. They don't want to set up stuff. Why do I think MMOs escalate Is it the worst genre? No, I mean, story escalation is always a thing. Brandon Sanderson has talked about this at a great length. Story escalation is a thing because that's what they think the audience want. Story escalation happens because you need to raise the stakes. The journey changes the character. And if the character is changed by the journey, the next journey needs to be something that changes them even more. It can't just be character goes to stop big evil bad guy, stops them, next story they try to stop a smaller bad guy. Except it can. It absolutely can be that. And I'll tell you a great example of that is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and one of my favourite elements is when they go from the globe-trotting Egypt arc, which is pretty bloody over the top, to the small town while in high school arc. I really like what was the name of the one where it's just like the small town, they go to high school, it's a chilled out little village. There's the episode where they find a guy that has a stand. Diamond is Unbreakable. They find a guy that has a stand that's just using it to be a chef. I really like that. To me, that was a really fun little story arc. That was great. If they'd have tried to just escalate that and make it even bigger, I'm like, no, it's totally okay to have such like a small scale, small stake thing. That can work. What do I think about the current shift in WoW and Chris Metzen, regret calling it World of Warcraft? I think you are throwing your current audience under the bus in pursuit of a larger target audience. I think that it is a terrible business tactic because you're saying, hey, if we'd have called ourselves something different, we would have attracted more customers. But by doing that, you're making your current customers feel that they're not appreciated because you didn't want them, you wanted more than them. I think the reason it's called World of Warcraft is to attract people who want a game called World of Warcraft and appreciate all of the general vibes that title brings with it. It's true that there are more people in the world who would not like that kind of vibe, but by doing that, you're saying, we aren't creating this product for you, we're creating this product for the maximum amount of people, we don't care who it involves. And I think that sucks. If you want to create a product serve a community, serve a specific demographic, don't serve this amorphous idea of nameless, faceless customers. I dislike it because it feels really disingenuous, it feels super corporate. They're basically saying, oh man, I regret that we have made the game the way we have made it because while we have appealed to a hardcore, beautiful, brilliant fan base, we have alienated people that maybe wanted something a little bit softer. Yeah, that's absolutely true. But if you created something that was a little bit softer, you would not have got the fan base that you have got. You would have created something that isn't this, that is totally different, that wouldn't have attracted the fan base it had. You're throwing your current fans under the bus in pursuit of theoretical fans that don't exist, which is a great way of saying, hey, we don't actually care about whether you like this or not, we care about how many there are of you, which I think is a sucky thing to do. I think, unfortunately, that's a perfect example of a corporate approach completely forgetting the soul of the thing that they've created. I still remember when I said to Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games when he was making Path of Exile 1, I said to him, have you considered maybe changing the way that a new player is exposed to the skill tree? Because right now it's quite intimidating. And his response was, no, we want a new player to be intimidated by the skill tree, because to us, the kind of players that we want to keep and want to attract and want to position our game at are the kind of people that are going to see that and go, oh my god, this is amazing, I want more of it. Not the kind of players that are going to be scared that we have to slowly kind of draw into our world. We want to make the game for people that want to play that game. And when he said that, I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. So actually you are deliberately designing a system that you know will alienate a percentage of the audience, because the audience that you want to keep around are the other type. I get it. Totally get it. Totally understand. That's how it's going to go. Why do you think reaction streams and videos get so many views? Because if you have a video that is, say, 10 minutes long, and you react to it, and then you upload that video as well, from YouTube's point of view, YouTube then has two versions of the exact same video, one of which is longer and has another streamer's name attached to it as well. Which means from the YouTube algorithm point of view, it then does not want to push both of those videos, because doing so would take up a valuable spot in the recommended for you page, which could be used for something else even longer. So the YouTube algorithm then decides that the best thing to do is to promote the reaction over the original, because from a business point of view, that is the thing that will not only serve the audience with the longest possible video, but also provide it with the other famous name that's known for it, and then increase retention and keep people on there. So the reason reaction videos get a hell of a lot more views is because they are longer, thus increasing watch time. They come with another name attached to them, thus increasing potential audience already there, kind of a baked-in audience for that person, and they will be prioritized over the original video, which means you're also working within the constraints of the algorithm. What you're also doing is outsourcing the idea of finding the interesting stuff to somebody that you already agree with and trust. So if you want to, instead of browse YouTube and find something that you may not like, you are giving someone who you trust the time and the energy and the effort to find a video that they can then recommend and show you. That would be why. So it's not only algorithmically pushed, it's also societally pushed, because it's much easier to just wait for someone whose views you generally already agree with to watch a video and entertain you through it. It's also much easier to make reaction content, because then you're not worrying about scripting and writing and editing and risking and uploading. You can react to 100 videos in the time that you could make one. So the other aspect of reaction videos is the parasocial nature of it as well. The parasocial nature is you watch someone whom you find entertaining, whose general life view you agree with, whose point you agree with, because not a lot of people actually want to watch something that challenges them. People tend to want to watch things that give them confirmation bias anyway. So you find someone who generally thinks the way that you think, then you watch them watch something that they find interesting, which you're going to find interesting, which means that effectively it's almost like a little community. You're watching it from the point of view of a friend. You're sharing content with a friend at that point. The reason that I don't necessarily like doing reaction content as much is because I feel that the original creator has put a huge amount of effort and time and, most importantly, risk into the creation of the video. Dark Viper made a really interesting video on all of this. You should go and watch Dark Viper's stuff. I spoke to him about it. And if someone puts the effort and the time and the risk into making a video, and then I sit on stream, watch it and give my opinion, and then re-upload it, I have taken no risk, because if my re-upload fails, I've not lost anything, because I didn't invest anything beyond the time it took to watch in the first place. So I can put out 4 or 5 reaction videos a day if I wanted to, which means that no original content creator would have a hope in hell of keeping up with my output, which means suddenly then my reaction to a video gets prioritized over the original video. And at that point, you're going to get people who are making original videos feeling bad that they are taking the risk and I am getting the reward. Now, there is a way to mitigate parts of this. There is a way that you can, and it's undeniable that the video being reacted to is going to see a boost in views. That's going to happen. You absolutely cannot deny that. Denying that would be foolish. But what you would also have to understand is that you are then prioritizing a system that disincentivizes creating original content and incentivizes watching someone who hasn't created something give their opinion on it. Do the reactions after the original video get the reviews? I mean, the reactions always get way more views. Even if a reaction got, half the views of the original, you would still effectively be cannibalizing the work and the risk of somebody else. But I would very much advise that you watch Dark Viper's video on it. Ironically, as soon as he made it, because I'm in it, and I end up talking about the benefits and the disadvantages that Asmongold reacting to so much of my content brought. Because for me to turn around and say it's all bad is disingenuous. Of course it isn't all bad. There are benefits that I have, benefited from myself. But I also have to understand and acknowledge that I am lucky to have received those. But at the same time, those benefits were a byproduct of the process. they were not the point of the process. Perhaps not watching the whole thing, cutting the vid so the whole video isn't shown. I mean, yeah, that can work as well, but it's still about the amount of work that you put into it. There's a huge amount of, money to be made in watching other people's videos, pausing them, giving your opinion on them, uploading them, and then doing that again every day. Because you are creating an amount of content that is edited heavily because somebody else has already edited it. If you wait for the original author to get their views, you're not harming them directly. If you react the same day, they won't get any views. Actually, I do understand that, where if you wait for the original, viewer to get the views already and then you react, months or weeks later, however long it is. But at the same time, you are mitigating the harm done to that person, but you are still then benefiting from that person's original work. I think that, and I've said this many times, I think YouTube should have an option to be able to share the revenue generated from a reaction content. If it was a revenue split or a revenue share, great. That way the person who has put the effort into it originally is getting repaid for it. And the person who is reacting to it can put their effort, their energy, their time into it too. There's also got to be the split between someone who is reacting to content because they don't want to create their own and they just want to cannibalize somebody else's and use that as background footage while they give their own views on things generically, and someone who has specialist input, into a specific thing. When you say reaction content is really lazy content, that is what we have to discuss the nuances of. Like if it's lawyer reacts to courtroom scenes in TV, okay, yeah, that's fine, because you are using specialist knowledge that I don't have, that very few people have, that we are exploring a situation within. That's a really interesting idea. If it's content creator waits for a video to be released and get popular, watch it, and then simply release their reaction to popular video because they want to have their name connected to popular video, that's not as great. Because what you also have to then understand is that a lot of reaction content is done for search engine optimization. Because if you then search for that video, one of the first things that will pop up, often with an identical thumbnail with a face attached to it, is that video and that reaction. And the reaction often is prioritized because it would be beneficial for YouTube to prioritize it. Original content can also be lazy. Yeah, absolutely. But as an original content creator, if you realize that you could make more money by just reacting to other people's content, what you are then forced to question is, why make original content at all? Having a specialist weigh in, totally fine. Having a generalist content creator weigh in because they want to insert themselves into the conversation because it's content, then it is less about having a valid, interesting, important, thought out reaction and needing to give your opinion, because that's what keeps you relevant. Does an example stand out where a video of mine was suppressed by a reaction to it? Pretty much every video of mine that has been reacted to then sees reduced views afterwards, because YouTube then has two versions of that video. My original version and the reacted version. And the reacted version is longer and normally already has a larger content creator's name attached to it, which means that YouTube is then always going to prioritize that one. If somebody searches for or tries to find my video, YouTube wants them to watch the other one. Experts reacting to stuff, totally great idea. Content creators reacting to stuff because they want to make content but don't want to take the risk of researching, writing, or editing, that's annoying. Does it break evergreen content? Yes, it does, because the evergreen version is then no longer your original. The evergreen version is then the reaction. I love you, Josh, no offense, but this is why I feel like watching smaller streamers more. With smaller streamers, it feels more like talking to a friend and watching them play a game. This feels more like a talk show with 2,000 guests all shouting at the same time. And then I died. Yeah, because I'm trying to give my opinions and my thoughts and my feelings while I am also, I may as well just respawn and fix everything, while also trying to interact. I am doing my best to read the chat while also playing the game. Oh my god, you even read my response. Yeah, I do. I do read the chat. I read the chat as much as I possibly can, and there are many people in this chat, but the interesting part about that is I am trying to recognize what you guys want, specifically what you're interested in, while at the same time playing a game that I've never played before. And you killed me. That's what happened. That's entirely your fault. Someone earlier in the chat says, are there any ideas that I've just not thought out? Are there any half-baked ideas? People often say that MMORPGs need to be multiplayer experiences. I think they need to be adventures that are possible to play solo that encourage and reward multiplayer. Do I think Teams should have a vote kick feature? I think Zoom should have a time limit that's shown to everyone, so everyone on it knows when the meeting is going to end. I think any boss that starts a meeting 10 minutes before the end of your shift, you should legally be allowed to punch, but only once a week. You know, we don't want to encourage too much. I think if the customer says doesn't scan, must be free, they should be forced to work the rest of your shift. I feel that anyone that's worked retail would have absolutely no issue with that. Just so you know. Oh, you still get paid? Yeah, while they work it. Absolutely. I feel that anyone that has a business idea where they solve a problem that's already been solved should be forced to understand exactly why they want to solve a problem that's already been solved. That's one that gets me put. This is a really, really specific thing, but the amount of friends that I've had that have come up to me and have gone, hey, I've got this really cool business idea. I'm like, okay, cool, what is it? And they're like, they describe the thing that already exists. I'm like, that exists. That's already been there. And they're like, yeah, but this time I'll do it. I'll do it differently. Okay, so like, it's like Facebook, but paid for. Okay, what problem are we solving there, guys? What's going on with that? Okay, here's an underthought idea that I've not thought through, but I really think needs to become a thing. I think we need to find a way, every time a tech bro tries to reinvent transport, to just ask them to explain the concept of trains. Every single time a tech bro, this is going to solve the transport crisis. Just what is a train? Just explain that. That's what we need. Thank you for the raiders. You've joined me at a very specific time. Cabinets, we are very much talking about things that I want to change in the world right now. And right now, what I want to change is I want tech bros to stop reinventing trains, but worse. Oh, but this is a special transport pod. No, it's a shit train. That's what you've invented. Oh, but it's going to be in a tunnel. So if it catches fire, everyone dies. It's a terrible idea. Oh, but these pods are going to be luxury. You've invented just expensive trains. That's what you've done. Oh, but these will be able to go anywhere, but only on rails. Guess what? Guess what we've already got that goes on rails, that's cheap to fix, that's relatively cheap to run, that's pretty bloody reliable. Okay, get this. Small trains, but in like cities. Trams. Congrats. Tech bro. This thing looks like a train, works like a train, carries fewer people than a train, but get this, it's also worse. That's my unthought out focus. So, yeah, there you go. Now you guys know how I feel about this. Luxury pods, first class trains. That's what you've got. It's like a train, but it goes on the road bus. Okay, it's going to be a special train, but it's only going to go on a specific loop. You've invented a bad monorail. Oh my goodness. Trains are notoriously unreliable. Well, I guarantee they're more reliable than a series of individual pods in a tunnel.